midst. Yes. The joy of this holy and blessed feast day. What does it mean to be, did you ever hear the expression, to be beside yourself? This is what the Synaxarion refers to today, and the prayers, of this feast. That Zechariah, the great high priest of this, it was his time, it was his time in the rotation to be the high priest at this time. So, did you hear that epistle about the tabernacle and the tables of the law and all of that Old Testament holiness that indwelt those holy vessels and all of that? We have to some degree that. We're not like the Jews who said that God is in the tabernacle and in the tent, or literally that's where he dwells when he's in the world. So, because we have Christ. But leading to Christ, we have this idea of all of that holiness and all of these things in the Holy of Holies, in the temple, leads one directly to what's coming next. And what's coming next is today, a feast like today, where the high priest, the one who knows the best about being with the holy things, praying directly with the holy things, with the presence of God, is the only one allowed to go into the inner chamber, for instance. And even then, he doesn't go there all the time. He goes there once a year on the Feast of Yom Kippur, right? He goes there to make atonement for the sins of the people. He goes there to pour out sacrifice for the sins of the people among the holy things in the Holy of Holies. That's why we have all those readings, all the Old Testament readings, including this New Testament epistle. St. Paul's bringing us back to that reality. He says, do you remember those things? All of the tabernacle and the law, tables of the law, and now we have something else. Now we have the Holy of Holies, which you get an idea of if you look at that icon way on the top, back in the back there. You have in the womb of the Mother of God, which becomes the new Holy of Holies, nothing less. You have now the holy things, if you will, the Holy One, the presence of God literally himself. Again, transferred from all of that, and now placed in the womb of a woman, the Holy Theotokos, born under the law and born under all of this, but herself in her womb transfiguring the law, making it something else. So to be beside oneself, because the high priest would know that. He would know that better than anybody. And he would, in fact, protect the Holy of Holies, right? He would say, no one's allowed in here. This is not a place, of public transportation, going in and out. And, people like that. They like to go in and change things and clean things and fix things. But really, it's the high priest himself who not only invites her, it says he takes her by the hand at 3 years old, not just any person, like any established holy person, a baby, a little girl. And he takes her by the hand and he leads her directly into the Holy of Holies. And how does this happen? How does this happen? Because he is besides himself. I love this expression. And when we use the word besides oneself, we say the person's nuts, they're crazy, they're beside themselves, they don't know what they're doing. Well, you could say that Zechariah was out of his mind with ecstasy, right? Out of his mind, beside himself from God. It says, and you never hear this too much, this expression attributed to God. It says, he was possessed by God. Possessed by God. We always hear the other one, possessed by something else. Possessed by God to do this thing. Makes no sense. Makes no intellectual sense. Makes no sense as regards the law. Makes no sense as regards the whole history of the Israelite nation. But it does make sense If a person allows themselves to be outside of themselves, possessed by God, right? To be possessed by God a little bit. So we see, like, in the lives of the saints of the church, a lot of times they're possessed by God. A lot of times they're outside of themselves, or beside themselves, you know? In fact, I read here not too long ago, a few years ago, this book, Experiences During the Divine Liturgy, where sometimes you see like a holy one, an elder or somebody, like they go outside of themselves, they're beside themselves, and the cherubim has to go on for an hour or two, while the one who's celebrating is like working out wherever he is, besides himself, like being possessed by God. And the beautiful thing is that the people of God, like in all of those cases, the chanter or the subdeacon or whoever, they knew what was happening. And they just waited. And they just prayed quietly. While this Holy Father traveled, went to the other realm, outside of himself. St. Paul himself says that. He was outside of himself. And Zechariah, today, on this feast day, is outside of himself. So that shows you something. If he's besides himself and possessed by God, there must be something hugely special going on here. And this is another indictment against any of the Jews who would deny this and who would attack, first of all, her, time and time again, and of course her son, throughout this whole time. You know, these are the kinds of things, even though it was mystical, and somewhat secret, you could say, but it was accessible. If they wanted to know this reality, they could have known this reality. You know, even Zechariah himself, right? To be outside of yourself is to know the reality, and at the same time, not to know what's going on. But he knew that he had to do this thing. So let's be careful, you know, like here's the problem with being Orthodox Christians in North America, right? Oftentimes we're going to look to people who are very logical, very like driven by many kind of intellectual things. It's got to fit into a box somehow. They're going to be driven like by that, and they're going to run into the church oftentimes being besides itself. You know, we are oftentimes completely outside of ourselves. Like during this liturgy, I would pray that even on this quiet feast day where there's not many of us, right, still to be outside of ourselves, to be literally possessed by God in this liturgy. Otherwise, what are we doing? Having some prayers and saying some words, or, you know, like eating some bread. If you're not beside yourself or like possessed by God, you tell me, why are we doing this? You see, this is the kind of mysterion, you know, this very deep, like, place outside of like normal logic, normal like ways of patterns of thinking, which is why people make fun of us. Which is why people say, okay, well, that's good for you, but you know, it's like a whole bunch of hocus pocus. And you know why? Because they're not allowing ever themselves to be possessed by God. It's why the Jews killed Christ. It's why this little feast that we have today isn't even universally realized or certainly celebrated, even among so-called Christian groups. We're the only ones who have this feast. Like on such a big scale. One of the 12 great feasts of the church. Why? Because God gave it a small, he gave that revelation to Zechariah, and ultimately he gave it within the bosom of being besides ourselves in the church. So, when someone comes to you and says, tell me about your church, tell me about your belief, like why would I want to come and be with you? The first thing we're not going to tell them is this feast. I promise you, if you do, not good. Because they have to be like possessed by God to get this feast right. You have to tell them about the incarnation. God becoming man. That's a stumbling block enough. You know, that It's called a kerygma, that which we proclaim. That's a stumbling block enough. To have God then die on a cross and be raised to, come back to life again and then ascend to heaven, if they can get past all of that, right? It's nothing. This feast is like nothing to believe, nothing, no big deal to add that to your belief. If it is, if it's a stumbling block, if it's a problem, you see, then even incarnation, crucifixion, resurrection, ascension, the main elements of the Christian teaching, even that, and I dare say this, even that is not understood. It's not incorporated. It's intellectual. It's here. And God help us if we sometimes just leave all of these deep mysteries in the level of the head, in the level of my understanding here. I was talking to somebody yesterday about the idea of it's so much easier for a person to enter the Orthodox Church if they don't have all of this intellectual, stuff from either another church or another philosophy or something, because all of that is what takes at least a year, maybe 2, maybe 10, to just kind of unlearn that and to have it replaced. And it's a painstaking process of replacing it with experiential knowledge of the heart. That's why we tell people, just come and see, come and experience, come and let holiness pour over you. Come and go out of your mind a little bit. You get the idea of going out of your mind? Get out of your mind, get out of your head. Come to the church and get out of your head and go deep into the deepest part of your soul. Let that happen. And you know what? When people let that happen, they don't need an explanation afterwards. I mean, we can always talk about the details of feasts and the details of the sacramental life and the details of, the ascetic life and all the things that transfigure us, right? But those are just details. The most important thing is to learn that knowledge experientially. And oftentimes, I would say that even 100% of the time, the best way to learn that is in silence, in quiet, like the Theotokos. Think about her time in the Holy of Holies. Do you think she was doing a lot of blabbing, talking? I mean, the angels were there, and there was definitely some community there. And she would go with the temple virgins, she would go in and out, right? But I don't see a lot of quote-unquote, normal, age 3 to age 12 kind of behavior, right? Because already the Mother of God somehow, noetically, is beside herself. She is possessed literally by God. She does little children's things. She dances up the steps, right? Can you see a little 3-year-old toddler jumping up the steps? Yeah. And then the high priest takes her hand and leads her into her ministry, into her new ministry. Basically saying, you stay here. It's the only fitting place, the Holy of Holies, for the Holy of Holies. That's it. That's this feast. And now we wait. Look at what happens liturgically. Now we wait till Christmas time. She waited from this age to the age where Archangel Gabriel, she was already out of the temple for other reasons. That's another feast. But from this age to the age of 12, 13, 14, whatever it was, she was waiting for her Lord to come to her and into her. And look what we did. Now, from November 21st to December 25th, we'll have that same anticipation, that same experiential longing and waiting. And at the same time, this is the most mysterious part. At the same time, we're doing it with, what do they call it? Hindsight. Looking backwards. Celebrating something already accomplished. But she was looking forwards with the same exact knowledge, the same exact intensity. Somehow, even though she didn't know exactly, look, the angel asks her, this is going to happen. And she says, well, how will it happen? She doesn't say, I don't believe it's going to happen. She just asks, okay, can you just fill in the details? She wants to know what's going on here because she's already dwelt in the temple. She knows something's going on. This is a very important and holy and out of your mind kind of experience. But she needs to, she's human. This is the beauty of her feminine humanity. Right? She says, but I've not been with him yet. How will this thing happen? Right? But just with the greatest openness, the greatest receptivity to, I am asking heaven how this enormous thing is going to happen. But then with the openness to just receive whatever comes. Crowned by this statement, be it done unto me according to thy word. Right? This is the handmaid of the Lord. Do you see how far we have to go? Men and women, by the way. How far we have to go to attain this receptivity. We're not receptive to this kind of being out of your head. We want to be in our head. We want to be in control. The greatest thing that the whole life of the Mother of God, and if you've never read it, read it, so that you can somehow find your way into this obedience, this receptivity, this like awareness even of what it means to be possessed by God. Now, don't let it happen. Don't leave the liturgy and you're possessed by God. Otherwise, how could you receive Holy Communion? Don't leave and then fall and not be possessed by God in even the very first encounter we have after church or in the world or whatever. And then we're not. Now we're in our heads again. You see? This is enough to drive us mad. And it does. We sit here, we have confessions all the time, and it's bouncing literally back and forth between in my head and possessed by God. In my head, possessed by God. Find the consistency of the Theotokos, who just never let her reality be intellectual. Not even if she didn't understand it. She said, no, I don't understand it, but who am I to understand anything? See? I'll leave it to God. I'm in your hands. I am your handmaid. I am your servant. Okay? So just from the time of 3 years old, where she's jumping up the steps and being led into the Holy of Holies, perfectly natural. Should be perfectly natural for you too. Should be perfectly natural for us, right? Especially us who are in here, who are like surrounding the New Testament Holy of Holies, the body and blood of Christ, right? Should be perfectly natural for us to want to stay there all day, all week, all year, and never move from that place. Why? Because we are possessed by God. And what else is there to do today? Right? Then close with this image. Remember when the Lord was he 12? During that gospel where he gets left behind and he's in the temple, and he's teaching in the temple, and they say, well, son, where are you? He said, did you not know that I have to be about my Father's business? That's the best answer. It's the best answer to anything in this life. Where were you? Like, where were you? Huh? And I just remember this. I never thought of this for all these 30-something years. I was supposed to be somewhere where the bishop was, back east, where my bishop ordained me was. And whatever happened, I wasn't there. Oh, no, it was a phone call. I was supposed to get a phone call or something, and I wasn't there in time. And I apologized. He says, you know what? Don't worry about it. I trust, listen to what he said. I trust that you were doing your Father's business. I forgot about that. He said, I trust that you were doing your Father's business. Now I better have been doing my Father's business, right? But there's nothing intellectual about that. It's the total trust, the total love, the total sacrificial obedience of the Mother of God. And ultimately reflecting the total sacrificial love of her Son and her God. A little glimpse into today's quiet feast. You go out there, go out and look in the newspaper, look everywhere. You're not going to see this feast anywhere. This November 21st, it's another day on the calendar for most people. But for us, it unlocks a little noetic, little mystical window into reality. The reality of being possessed by God. Amen.